How's everybody doing? Thank you very much for coming to the convention. Um, I think it's important to tell the background as to how I actually ended up getting invited to come here and speak. The creator and founder, Chris, I actually had done a talk with him at TEDx, if anybody's familiar with TEDx. And it was pretty cool, but everybody else there was like this super major CEO company starter, and they had all this special stuff about them. And I was the only person that didn't have that. I more so just have a story that I like to tell, and a lot of times people like to listen. So out of everybody, Chris was the person that I connected to the most. And the reason being so is because we found out that we shared a love for video games. And we were just talking about all of these different games, and before we knew it, time had passed. And I was like, wow, you're like one of my best friends ever. And we only knew each other for a short period of time. And ironically, if you look at me and Chris, we don't look anything alike. We probably don't come from the same background, but it was very interesting. Out of a common love for video games, we were able to develop a relationship with each other and talk to each other on a consistent basis. And even though he's the owner and creator of GDEX, and I don't have much myself, I don't feel like I'm far away from him as an individual. I just feel like he's a very, very good friend of mine. And after we all did our talks at TEDx, not too much later, Chris had contacted me and he said, I got this event that I'm doing. And I said, cool. And he said, Donte, I would like for you to talk about anything you would like to talk about. What I'm really looking for is different perspectives, because what I shared earlier was the stereotypes that a lot of people have when it comes to video games. That it's supposed to be a white boy that's only 16. He eats a whole bunch of junk food and he's online cussing people out all the time. Those are the only people that play video games. But we never have an opportunity to recognize that there are lots of other people that support the gaming industry and have voices within the gaming industry. And whether it be a black person, a white person, young, old, it's a very diverse group of people, and we all have voices. And for me, I grew up in poverty. I had both of my parents, my mother and my father. The neighborhood at that point in time, it was pretty bad, but I really didn't know or understand what was going on. I just knew that I was at home and everything was okay. That was pretty much my story. But as I got older, I started to pay attention to the narrative that a lot of times people use when it comes to black boys specifically. You know, usually you could watch TV or watch some sports and they be like, little Jonathan, he grew up in poverty. His mother was on drugs. His father went to jail, and he overcame all the adversity and made it to the position he is today. He's such a great guy. And I'm like, how many times do I have to hear that story over and over? Like, no, I'm dead serious. That is the story that you always hear over and over and over and over. And I'm like, look, that is not everybody's experience growing up. And that was not my experience. Like I said, I had both of my parents. Everything was cool. Was I a part of the poverty? No, but did I grow up in it? I did. And I found out as I began to get older and I started to recognize that I really didn't fit in with a lot of the other kids. I had a foundation, I had support, I had a lot of things that most people don't have, period. I had consistency, something that I could always revert to. So as I went to school and all these different places, I always started to feel like a little bit of an outcast, because things that interest them, things that they did like, things that they didn't like, it just was something we couldn't really connect on. So as I moved to another neighborhood and I was around so many different people that I did not know, that's when I really became very, very, very antisocial. And I would not really talk to anybody. I wouldn't go outside. I just sat down and I ate food all day. I got chubby. My stomach grew. And I really didn't know what to do with myself. At a young age, I was experiencing depression. And once again, going back to what I said about the stereotypes that people place on children, regardless of where you come from, nobody really knew that about me, but that's what I was going through. So I remember one day a cousin of mine had came over, and we were playing Street Fighter. And he did this move called the Hadouken. And I said to myself, wait a second, you actually know how to do this move? You mean to tell me there's more to video games than just pressing buttons over and over and over and over and not knowing what's going to happen? So he showed me how to do the Hadouken. And that was the worst mistake he could have ever made in his life, because that's the only move I did the whole time. So we would be doing Hadouken matches with each other for like an hour straight just to see who Hadouken could reach the other person first. Because when they meet, they cancel out. So, we just sitting there for an hour like Hadouken, 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 Hadouken. And we thought, have y'all ever seen that episode of Dragon Ball Z where Gohan was fighting Cell? And they had, he did the Kamehameha wave and Cell had did something too. That's what it felt like to us. We felt like we were Gohan and Cell. But, it was 2D graphics, so that's what it really was. But what happened was, after that, I said, wait a second. So there's a science behind video games. I can actually sit down, figure out the move set, and do things the way I want to. I don't have to just press all of these buttons and hope they do something. So I said, what's another move I could do with this guy? So my cousin showed me that move where you down, back, kick, and you do that spinning thing. You're like, do. And I was like, this is cool. Oh, my God. And then he showed me that uppercut. He's like, something. He did that. And I was like, oh, my goodness. So I was like, this is the coolest thing ever in my life. And that's when I became a little bit addicted to video games. Because I was like, this is so cool. But remember, Street Fighter was the first game that I really got into and played. So as time went on, I started to play different games. And I thought you could use Street Fighter input in every video game that you played. Found out that did not work. The game that I remember where I tried to do Street Fighter input was called Kirby's Dream Course. So y'all know about Kirby? The little pink dude that eats stuff? So I'm trying to do a Hadouken. But this game, Kirby's Dream Course, was almost like playing pool. I don't know if anybody played that game. You had to direct Kirby where you wanted him to go, and he would roll or he would jump. So I'm trying to do Hadoukens, and I'm not understanding why the screen is going to the left and the right, and why his cursor is moving all over the place, and I got real upset and angry. But as time went on, I figured out that I was doing something wrong. I wasn't following the directions. So I said, oh, okay, so all I have to do is press 2 buttons in this video game. I get it. And I said, all right, great. I figured this out. So as time went on, something else that I recognized too was certain characters in video games were more socially acceptable than others. After I found my love of video games, I got to the point to where I wanted to begin to share with people some of the stuff that I did. Like when my cousin had told me about the Hadouken and the Tutototen and the Shukaruken, all of that stuff, I said, I want to share that with somebody too. So when I went to school and when I would talk about Street Fighter, that was one of the games that was socially acceptable. So when you talk about Street Fighter, everybody know Ryu, everybody know Ken, everybody know Blanca, everybody know Balrog, everybody know Vega. It was cool. It was a cool thing to do. So I went to school and started to talk about Kirby. Nah, that was the wrong thing to do. I'm like, the game with the pink dude where he jumped and when he rolled? I got laughed at so hard. And at that point in time, that's when I started to keep my gaming life very, very private. As silly as it may seem, I took my gaming life very serious because, once again, at a point in time in my life where I was antisocial and where I was isolated from people, I was very sensitive to what somebody had said to me. And that's when I found out that, like, wow, I really don't have social skills like I thought I did. I'm living vicariously through video games, but it's very real because of the concepts and correlations that you can make from trying to do everything one way, playing with Ryu, but you're trying to play with Kirby. You can't do that. That was a lesson that I learned from video games. You need to find different angles and perceptions when you're dealing with people or when you're dealing with situations. And I felt like, me personally, I'm thinking I'm all super advanced and I know everything, but nobody else did. So when I got laughed at for playing Kirby, I was like, I hate the world. Y'all gonna laugh at me for playing Kirby? And it's kind of like back to Dragon Ball Z. It's like, you know, everybody loved to play watch Dragon Ball Z. That was socially acceptable. But if you was a dude that was watching Sailor Moon, something was wrong with you. Everybody was acting like Sailor Moon ain't come on before Dragon Ball Z. I know the whole Sailor Moon song, and I will sing it right now, but I'm not gonna do that. But let's see. After that, I said that's where the isolation had became a lot more deeper, and I started to explore a lot of different games. Let's see. The next game I played was Crash Bandicoot. That's when PlayStation it came out. So that was my very first PlayStation game that I had. And Crash is like my favorite character. They just recently rebooted it. That made me so happy. Cause after about Crash Bash, I think, I don't know what they did to him, but I don't know what they did, but he was acting like he drank a whole bunch of Red Bulls and his eyes was extra big and he did not look healthy. So I ain't like those Crash games. Another game I played was Tony Hawk. I love Tony Hawk. I never picked up a skateboard a day in my life, but when it came to Tony Hawk, I actually found out all types of skateboard moves that I wouldn't know anything about in real life. Something that I learned from Tony Hawk was rotations, because Tony Hawk did the 900. And I'm like, why in the world are they calling this the 900? What is this? And then I figured out in the game, as you spin, it would go 180, 360, 540, 720, 900. And I said, oh, those are rotations. And Tony did a total 900 spin when it comes to, you know, adding up all the rotations and what he done. And I said, wow, I couldn't learn that in math class. At all. Math is my worst subject, but that's something that I learned when it came to video games. And what's another game that I played? Another PlayStation game that I played was, I don't know. But as time went on, that got stale too. I'm like, okay, I'm playing all these games by myself. Now what? What am I going to do now? I'm isolated. I'm finding characters that I like. Crash Bandicoot is cool, but I do not live in Crash Bandicoot's world. Final Fantasy is great, but I don't have a sword that is as long as this room, and I don't have one wing to fly around. And once again, I kept my gaming life private, so I really didn't share with anybody what games I did like, because I'm thinking I'm going to get laughed at. So as time went on, that's when PS2 it came out. I did not have the PlayStation 2 until probably about 4 years ago, because I was just playing the PlayStation. But I went over to my cousin's house, and they had the PS2, and they had online. For me, that was mind-blowing. I said, you mean to tell me you can get online and play games with other people? How do you do that? Because I still had dial-up. You know, when you got to wait till like 12 o'clock at night to get on the internet because people will be calling you. You're like, I can't block these calls. I can't miss these calls. So I'm still on dial-up, but they had a little bit better internet to where they could actually play video games. And it was this game called 25 to Life. It was the most stereotypical black game ever that you could think of. It was about this black dude who got his son taken away from him. And he was on this revenge murder spree where he's going to get every gangster in the hood until he got his son. Reminded me of my childhood again. But it was so fun that I actually got to team up with other people. And we actually had the headsets and we were talking to each other. And what tripped me out was the conversations that we would have. A lot of times we wouldn't even be talking about the game. We would be talking about something else that would be going on in reality. Like, oh, did you watch that episode of wrestling last night? Did you see the Undertaker choke slam Triple H? Or we would just talk about so many different things, like our favorite food, our favorite color. And before you knew it, you had people that you felt a lot more comfortable with than you probably would in real life through online gaming. And I got to the point to where I was like, I want to do online gaming too, but I ain't the person that pay the bills around here. But as time went on, my parents actually got better internet. And I was able to do this online gaming stuff. So the very first game that I had to play online was Assassin's Creed. And I think that was 2. It was either 2 or Brotherhood. And I got more than I bargained for, because if you ask me, I think Assassin's Creed is probably one of the most unique online experiences that you could have. So the mechanics of the game and the way they move and the things that you have to do is a little bit different. So for me to jump right into online gaming playing Assassin's Creed was a major jump. And you could do team death matches to where your team would attack someone, the other team would hide. And what me and my team tried to do, we tried to come together and ambush certain people, so we would kind of chase them to where the other people were so they could easily get the kill. But there was one person on the team that just couldn't get the memo, and we really didn't understand. So we all were sending notes to him like, bro, listen, you messing us up. You making us lose. Stop it. Don't do that. What is your problem? Do you not hear us talking? I know you don't have a mic, but do you hear us talking? So he sends a message back, and it's in a different language. And I was like, oh, he don't know nothing we saying. He has the slightest clue as to what we are talking about and what we are trying to do. So what we actually did was, as we were playing, we would stand in front of him, and we would circle around the area that we wanted him to be in. So there's like a stack of hay that you can hide in. So what we all would do is we would run by the hay, and we would kind of circle around it, and he would jump in it. So, and then we would find another spot, like, okay, up here on the roof. So we would kind of circle around the roof, like, watch down there so you can see who's coming. And when we bring them this way, you could jump down. So we found a way to communicate beyond a language barrier. That's something that you really don't get on a day-to-day basis, period, especially if you face-to-face with somebody. You see somebody that speaks a different language, and you're like, do you know what I am saying? That doesn't do anything. But that experience right there is something else that I got from gaming, because, one, I only know how to speak English. I really don't have too many friends that speak different languages. 2, I have never been out of the United States. So not only am I meeting friends online, but I'm having an opportunity to interact with people that probably have never came to the United States themselves, and developing friendships with them and being more embedded in their culture and learning some of the things that they say and some of the things that they do, which is pretty cool. And as time went on and as I got older, and I look back on all of the games that I did play and all of the lessons that I did learn inadvertently through video games, is something that I really cherish and find very important. And, you know, the whole concept of my talk was talking about how in today's times we have a lot of difficulty connecting with one another, whether it's our religious views, our political views, our race, our ethnicity, who we trust and who we don't trust. We really sit around and talk about those things all day, and those are the things that will end up dividing us. But when it comes to video games, it don't matter what language you speak, it don't matter what gender you are, it don't matter what color you are, it don't matter your socioeconomic status, that does not matter. The only thing that matters is you coming together with people and you trying to accomplish this common goal. You're trying to figure out what is it you want to do and how are you going to solve this problem as a team. And I feel like that's a lesson that we all could learn through video games if we sat down and took them serious and had the perception of Donte, but that's not everybody in the world, though. And as time went on, now I am 27 years old. A while ago, I got involved in doing a lot of mentoring and helping in the community. And specifically, I like to work with young black boys. And when I first started, it was an experience because, like I said, my story was a little bit different from a lot of the kids that I grew up with. And you end up working with kids that have all types of things going on in their life, going on at home. If you look at their records, you will see all types of stuff that, as an adult, you haven't even experienced before. And some of them aren't even 10 years old yet sometimes. So it can be very bothersome, but at the same time, you end up coming across kids that somewhat remind you of yourself. So if you look to my right, you might see two black kids sitting here. How y'all doing? Great. This is Lewis, and this is Micah. I first met Micah in a community that I was working in. And he kind of reminded me of myself because he wasn't the type of kid to just run his mouth. He wasn't the type of kid to get in any trouble. He stayed to himself, minded his business in his own world. And I feel like that's what drew me into Micah. Because I'm like, this dude is really, really mature. I think I want to be his friend. I want to be his friend. Because not all kids are easy to relate with. A lot of people swear up and down they can relate with kids, but sometimes you have to find out who is that one that you can really, really, really relate to. And that was Micah. And we began talking, and we found out that we had a common interest in video games. And the first game that we were talking about was Skyrim. I told you I was going to talk about it. We both were playing Skyrim. And what class was you? I was a Nord, and he was something else. The Nord is the white guy, if you don't know, it's, Skyrim, but that's the white dude with the blonde hair. That's like stereotypical white Hercules guy. I was him. I don't know what his class was, but he was a different class to me. I think you were a orc. Oh, Khajiit. Okay, he was the cat, the walking cat. The walking cat. I don't know, are the mics on? Okay. Y'all can come to the mic. We're going to do a Q&A afterwards. But I found out that he was a different class to me, and I'm like, oh, shoot, this kid is cool. And the very first time, we started to get a little bit closer, and the first time I went over his house, we played video games together. We were playing this game called Goat Simulator. The what? No, it's not. That is abuse.
You just destroyed the goat's life, and that's just funny.
That ain't funny. No, I let Micah know. I was like, Micah, why are we abusing goats? And he's just laughing and thinking it's funny. And then he had all of these cheat codes where you could be a giraffe or, and you could play hockey. I'm feeling real bad, but before I knew it, I was laughing too. And it was this, I think it was a Ferris wheel. There's a Ferris wheel you could get on, and I jumped off the Ferris wheel just to see what could happen. And the goat survived. So that was pretty cool. But as time went on, I met Lewis too. And Lewis is another kid that also plays video games that I met through Micah. And it really trips me out because these two have a very unique relationship with one another that exceeds beyond video games. But it's obvious that their common love for video games is something that connects them and gives them something to do outside of the neighborhood that they live in. Because, once again, a lot of the kids in the neighborhood may not have the same type of family as them. They may not have the same morals and values or interests as them. But it's very good when you find somebody that does. And once again, surprisingly, through video games, relationships like that can grow and develop and turn into something. So it's like Micah is half of me and Lewis is half of me. I ain't get to play video games with him yet, so I don't know if he cheat like Micah does in video games. But what? Cheater. But like so all these different lessons that I learned from video games and all the experiences that I've had from being able to step out of being isolated and feeling like I'm outcasted or I'm not comfortable enough to talk about some of the things that I like. Learning lessons such as the 900 through Tony Hawk. Learning different words because, you know, villains, they have a vocabulary out of this world. So when you read the dialogue of a villain, you're like, whoa, this dude is dropping knowledge. Like when Sephiroth talk, oh my God. But those are real life lessons that you learn through video games. And as a child that grew up in poverty, a lot of these lessons are things that are very difficult to let just resonate inside of your head and things that you can take with you throughout life. But when it's given to you in the context of a video game, it's something you enjoy, you learn that it's the same exact thing. So when it comes to video games, I believe that it is a very serious way to connect with people. It's a very unique way of learning about people, and it's something that you can actually enjoy without worrying about all of the senseless stuff that we try to embed in everyday society. Because I can guarantee if you put Obama and Donald Trump in the same room with a video game system, they are going to be cracking up, having fun. You take somebody from another country and get an online gaming session started, they're not thinking about what that person look like. They just want to make sure that they win. They might be a jerk, but at the same time, you always congratulate the other person and say, good game, good job, all of those different things. So I really hope that what I left with you, if you may not be familiar with the experience of a child that grows up in poverty, that video games is a lot deeper than just having fun. It's filled with life lessons, and it's filled with so many different opportunities and recognition of what life is outside of being categorized and stereotyped and called a statistic. So that's what video games is to me. Thank you very much. So if anybody has any questions, you could ask. Anybody have any questions? And if you got any questions for Micah and Lewis too, you can direct them towards them. So, yeah.
So what are you guys playing now?
Me? Well, come on, y'all. Right now, I am playing Dark Souls 2. And you play Dark Souls? Okay. Anybody else play Dark Souls? You play Dark Souls 2? Dark Souls 2 is so different from Dark Souls 1 because they don't tell you anything, and they're so obscure about so many things. And when it comes to Dark Souls, it's like, okay, there's a fork in the road and it's two paths. Do I go the way where it's a giant that's breathing fire, or do I go the way where there's a midget with an axe that's bigger than the giant? And you go the way where the midget is holding the axe that's as big as the giant, and he transforms into a giant. You're like, well, I should have went the giant way. So Dark Souls is one of those games where it's real difficult to figure out what you want to do, but it keeps you engulfed in it because you just don't know, and you have to figure out. And the whole concept of the game is for you to die so you can do it over and figure out what you need to do. Yeah. Okay. Oh, it's on now?
Yeah, I got them on.
Okay, cool. Yeah, y'all can sit back. So yeah, go ahead and tell them what games y'all playing right now.
Okay. You can go first, Micah.
No, you go first.
Okay. So right now, at my dad's house, I am finishing up on Gears of War 4, and I'm on chapter 3, and I can't get by the juveniles without them seeing me. So I tried, and I just couldn't get it. I'm not gonna quit. I'm gonna keep trying, but I just can't do it.
The game I'm currently playing is Overwatch, which is really weird. I don't know why.
What is that?
What is Overwatch?
What is
It's kind of hard to describe.
It's like a future.
It's
first person shooter.
it's like it's not an RPG, but it's
Retro-ish.
no. I don't know how to describe it.
Is it a game with guns?
Yes.
Oh, it's one of them.
Some of them.
Like Call of Duty.
No, but yes.
Gotcha. I understand.
It's kind of like a weird Destiny.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are several. There are escort objectives where you have to get a certain object, like a car or a plane, rocket ship, whatever, to a destination. There are now team death matches where you just kill the other people and win. And those are the main ones. So I'm not good at this stuff.
I want to know when have any of you guys taken the next step beyond enjoying the games and got into either modding or building games?
No, not me. You can answer that.
When I was in school,
Modding is awesome. I want to build from scratch. Modding is cool.
I've actually kind of learned how to build games, and because there's a website, it's called like Scratch. Yeah, I think it's called Scratch, and it showed me how to build games.
Oh, you're talking about games from scratch?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I did a game where you have to catch fruit, and you have to avoid the flies.
What tool are you using?
It was hold up. It was weird because my teacher showed me how to do it. She did the tools, and then she told me to set it up and put the characters and stuff in. And after that, I kept getting into I got into computer games, and then I stopped and went back to system area games. And I'm kind of into logic games, but that's another story.
Have you modded any games, Michael?
No, I have not.
You know how to cheat though. Tell you that much. Got them cheat codes.
That's me.
I think you got a question and then Jason.
Yeah, so I'm writing a game that's shown here at GDEX, and something that we're kind of struggling with, well, not struggling, but the team of writers is white, and a lot of our characters are people of color or different sexualities or gender identities of the people on the team, so we're working on doing it right and like talking to people with those experiences, but I guess, what do you think, like in your experience, are good games to look at that like do representation of Black people well? Like things that you play and you're like, okay, they did their research, they did not use bad stereotypes.
Okay. That's kind of difficult to answer because a lot of times in video games,
You can have them.
even if it's a character that's not black or a character that's not white, even white characters are stereotypes sometimes. Because sometimes that's all people really want to see. So when it comes to black characters, usually it's the guy that's under the boss that beat people up all the time. You know, the guy that come out the shadow and he's like, "Don't worry, boss, I got this." Like that's his only line, like just beat people up and being ready to fight all of the time. But what is a good game? Because the only game, and this is a horrible example, but you can tell that the people actually dug into the actual culture that they were trying to convey to everybody. And that was Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. When you had CJ, the black guy that got out of jail, that was all extra skinny, like, you don't know what was going on with him, but he was all extra skinny, he got home, and he was in the hood, and his mom passed away, and he was in gang territory. And that, like I said, that's not a good example, but it was a reality that was conveyed very realistically when it came to a person that lived in that culture. And it tripped me out because I'm like, they really made this into a video game. And it's something that I was familiar with. I didn't like all of it, but I played the whole game and beat it. But I guess the only thing you could really do is I guess what you did, ask the question like, what exactly should I pay attention to, or what type of characters are relatable and make sense? Because I was playing, my friend had Final Fantasy, I think is, I don't know which one it is. It has, I think, lightning in it. 13. Is that the one with the black dude that does disco with the afro? Yes. You know, like when he's fighting, he's dancing like a little disco dude. I'm like, they were bored. Yeah. 5 minutes? Okay. Yeah. So, stuff like that, you look at it, you laugh at it, but at the same time you say, they really didn't try that hard. So I guess just doing some research and asking people, and also looking at some of the things that the black demographic may find interesting. And really dive into it, not just look at it from a surface level, because you can look at anything, and if you do it from a surface level, you're going to perpetuate the stereotype. So I would say just dive in a little bit deeper and figure out what people like about certain things. So, yeah. Jason? Oh. Who's next? Anybody got a question? Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Smash Brothers?
Yeah, I suck at that.
Oh, I was wondering because like the latest version has both Ryu and Kirby. Well, Kirby's kind of mainstay, but yes.
Oh, for real?
Yes. So they kind
So
of.
I can do Ryu input with Kirby?
Yes.
What do we do?
Well, he does the Doken, he does the
Kirby?
Yeah.
No.
No.
What do Kirby do?
Eat people.
He sucks people up and he can actually steal their special abilities.
Can't nobody laugh at Kirby now. Oh man.
So people love Kirby in Smash.
Okay. Cool.
I think we just lost Donte.
Yeah. Jason. You what?
I think they smashed that up.
They
oh,
do?
for real? Oh, me and you. We gonna
I'm
play.
not good at Smash.
Me neither. That's what's gonna make it fun.
Hey.
Oh, let's let him talk. What's he- He said, have y'all thought about going into the gaming industry or computer?
I have. I wanted to be a game designer. When I played my first video game, I was 6, and I played this weird skater game on Game Boy, and it was this dude just having skates on, and I was just wondering, how do they make that? And then my mom told me that they use game designers to make that, and they have to input codes. And I said I wanted to be that, but I also want to be a physicist.
I don't even know what that is.
It's kind of hard to explain, but that's about it. We're both in 7th.
And we're both 12.
Can I share something real quick? So I live in Columbus State, and there is, I know who you are.
Okay.
Anyway, so there is a opportunity for you guys at school that's being in a program called College Credit Plus. So tell your mom or your dad, help you get involved in that, and you can actually take classes and learn about coding, about game development, game design, the whole thing for free.
Okay.
I'll take her up there with
It's the
me.
best thing in the world.
She know who I am, and that's good. So we connected. Yeah.
So, quick question. We learned what you learned from playing video games and lessons and things like that. What are you guys learning from playing video games?
Okay. What I learned from playing video games is that, like what Donte said, but a little bit different. Like, everybody has their own way of playing. Like, I wanted everybody else to play just like me. Like, I used to always do kick moves, and they used to do punch moves. I'm like, why don't you just follow me? And when I met Micah, it was like we always used to play UFC like 2 years ago, and he would be the only one using kick moves, and I always try to punch him, and then I get knocked out. And that's the thing, I didn't like that. So
You kept
He
doing the
taught-
Hadouken like I was doing.
and then he taught me how to do some better kick moves, and then he downloaded it on PS4, so I used Alexander Gustafson, and it was only a demo. So I used Alexander Gustafson, and he used John Jones. At first, he knocked me out, and then I started to get back, and then I started knocking him out, and then in some games, it's like if you hit each other at the right moment, you'd knock each other down, and so one of them would just get knocked out, and it'd always be me. It just always be me, and I never knew why. And then I started button mashing. See, I'm a cheater. But after that,
What did you learn?
I can't be button mashing anymore. That's what I learned.
Michael, what did you learn from video games?
What have I learned from video games? It's weird, but it's like how to adapt and how to read people a little better.
Whew, them boys is deep. What was your question?
I just wanted to say, I'd like to speak with you and you after the panel, if you guys have a few minutes, because I'm trying to work on a project that relates to what both of you guys said.
Okay.
So if you got a few minutes, and we can maybe talk about
Most definitely. We're gonna ride this whole thing out. We're gonna be here the whole time. Anybody else got any questions? Yeah.
Who do you mean in Overwatch?
Junkrat.
Like, I have to just use Reaper. This like my main character, one of them. It's hard.
I don't play Overwatch, so I don't know what y'all talking about. Any other questions? Anybody? Cool. Yep. Well, something that I'm actually working on is a documentary. Funny thing you said that is because I've been telling them, like, I'm gonna do a documentary on you. I'm gonna do a documentary on you. Because I'm documenting the experiences that I have in the neighborhood, mentoring young black boys. And the director is this man in the back on the crutches. And I'm going to be documenting these two boys and a lot of the other boys. As I had shared the experience with video games, there's plenty of other experiences that people don't get to witness when it comes to young African-American boys that live in poverty, as opposed to always hearing about the negatives and the stereotypes and the statistics. The only time you hear about something is when somebody is in jail and somebody got shot, but you never get to see two boys talking about video games and lessons that they learn. You see that they are very articulate, they can communicate, and they're comprehensive with the questions that you ask them. But these type of kids don't get spotlight. So that's what the documentary is about. So we're going to be doing a Kickstarter coming up very soon. We had to push the project back because I had a lot of stuff I needed to do, but me and the director are going to be launching a Kickstarter very soon, and it's going to be going towards the film so we can get all of the boys together and get this documentary out there so people can see different experiences in real life situations that they're dealing with and how they have to cope and adapt, as Micah has said. So if you want to know more about that, once I get off, we can talk about that a little bit more. So that's the documentary, and yeah, thank you for reminding me, Jason. Any other questions? Y'all got any last words y'all want to say?
I'm good.
You good? You good too? Cool. Well, that's my talk. Thank you very much.